Brian Wilson alongside Larry O'Connor.
Joining us right now, Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, and he's got a brand new book out. Listen up now, because Father's Day is it's here. It's this week, and this is a pretty good idea here, kids, if you're listening, or dads, you might want to drop a hint around the house. The book is called Counterfeit Lies. It's available, and you can get it signed by Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North if you go over Wednesday, June 11th, to the Costco in Baltimore, Costco in Leesburg, Costco in Winchester, Virginia, and then on Thursday, Barnes & Noble in Roanoke, and Books A Million in Bristol, Virginia. You're a busy man, Lieutenant Colonel.
Well, I just want to keep the United Airlines solvent one way or the other. Make sure we can sell lots of diesel for that beautiful big tour bus, and, of course, meet lots of fans.
Well, we like talking to you.
It is interesting that his book comes out at the same time that Hillary's does. I call it counter-programming.
Yeah, and somebody said to me yesterday, hey, is Counterfeit Lies the subtitle of the Obama administration? I hadn't thought of it that way, but it turns out to be.
That is funny. Well, listen, let's be clear. This is not, we like talking to you about real-world stuff and things that are happening in the news, but this is a thriller, right?
Good point, and there is a lot of real-world stuff in it. It's just, we changed enough of the dates, times, places, and names. You can tell these kinds of stories without going crosswires with government agencies for which we'd already signed non-disclosures years ago. A lot of contemporary stuff in here, a lot of how we got to where we are with things like hostages that aren't right what they seem, the kinds of things that are occurring with the Iranian nuclear issue, which is going to be the next big scandal, and that's going to break in a couple of days. All this is tied to a lot of those current events. And it just happens that her book has her way of doing it. My book is what they've done to make things wrong for the United States of America and for the future.
Well, good luck with the book. Listen, you're a combat decorated U.S. Marine. You've been on the front lines. You know what it's like. I want you to weigh in on this Bo Bergdahl thing. I mean, we are told by the administration that it doesn't matter that this guy was apparently a deserter, that we had an obligation to go back and get him. So I want you to weigh in on that. And then I want you to answer me what you think about the trade. Did we make a good trade?
Well, from what I know, and my involvement, Brian, goes all the way back to when the issue that was before the administration and, of course, from the intelligence that was being gathered, was that those who held Bergdahl, regardless of how he got in their hands, were never the Taliban. He was never regarded as a, quote, prisoner of war. They all thought him as a hostage, and that's the way they presented it. And all they wanted was money. And, of course, the people who held him were called the Akani Network, a criminal network enterprise that's been around for centuries that has done trades for everything from opium to gold to get people free. And so they approached various people to look for an intermediary. There was an operation being conducted by an outfit called Eclipse that was gathering this information. I've seen the raw footage. I worked with their family. I put them in touch with each other. And all I ever saw all the way for over a year and a half was how much the price was going to be in dollars. Now, here's my conclusion, Brian. At the end of the day, this administration adds to the mix the transfer of this is the Fab Five of the Taliban, which the Haqqanis had never asked for. And so somewhere along the line, I conclude what happened is that there was an exposition of what's going on down it. We've seen it now with these Fab Five.
Ollie, are you saying that you were involved somehow in helping in this incident?
I was asked to meet with the families and to tell them how these things work because, as the world knows, I've been there, done that. I mean,
you have a little experience in getting hostages out of situations.
And by the way, one of the worst experiences of life is to meet with people who set a price for an American, and I had to do it. I also had to meet with dozens of families, going all the way back to Jim Dozier, who were distraught and disturbed and anxious about their loved ones. And so I wore Bo's bracelet that his mother gave me for well over 2 years. I knew what the transaction was going to be, saw all the raw intelligence, and then looking back on it, I now realize someone else added to the mix, and it was the Obama administration, the release of these Fab Five of the Taliban. And the Taliban and the Haqqanis hated each other.
I want to be real clear here, and because I saw, listen, in the Washington Free Beacon over the weekend, Lachlan Marquet had an unnamed senior intelligence official who said, Haqqani Network, they don't care about these hostages, about the Taliban. All they cared about was money. Ali North, you are repeating that and then adding to that. You're telling me that the idea to release these 5, the worst of the worst, out of Gitmo did not come from the Haqqani Network, did not come from anyone in Afghanistan. You're suggesting that it came from here, from the Obama administration. They said, hey, take these guys too.
Exactly. That is exactly what I'm saying. And so the question that needs to be asked, Larry, is how did they get added to the mix, and was a ransom paid? And if so, by whom, to whom, and how much was it?
Now, let's set aside the Taliban for a second. If we had just had a deal where we gave the Haqqani Network, say, $5 million, and now you give us our guy home, do you think...
Well, the bid was actually a lot lower than that.
Was it?
Yeah, and no one ever said, by the way, in exchange for the hostage. So here's the way it works. They put up money or offers of money, then the entire issue of transactions and negotiations for a price, a verification of proof of life, and then validation that people you're talking to can actually deliver. I have done this far too many times, quite frankly, which is a terrible experience. You're negotiating a price for an American hostage, an American citizen's life.
If a journalist in this town were listening to us right now, Oliver North, and they are, and they wanted to ask someone official with the White House or with the Pentagon to either confirm or deny what you're alleging, who do you think they would talk? Who should they ask?
Well, I think the New York Times has already had the experience of a New York Times correspondent named David Rode. And if you note in that story, David Rode talked nothing about exchanges of people. He acknowledges that there was a price on his head to get him free. And so the idea that someone can negotiate with bad people, has to negotiate with bad people.
Well,
I mean, we have professional hostage negotiators who do this with the FBI and the CIA.
Yeah, but if it was the Obama administration who voluntarily said, "Why not throw it?" Well, we have to get that. I mean, who do we follow up with?
Go to the people that James Rosen is talking to.
Man, that's huge.
All right. Well, we're going to leave it right there because you've given us a lot to chew on, Ollie, as you always do.
Brian, let me just tell you, there's more of that kind of thing in the new book,
Counterfeit Lies.
Yes. Get the book at olivernorth.com in time for Father's Day, signed, or you can get it any one of our area, because I'm headed from New York right down to where you are, to Baltimore, then to Winchester, Leesburg, then to Winchester, and we got fans, and you know this, Brian, real well, and Larry.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
My Betsy is listening to this right now.
All right.
She's going to meet me there.
Well, Ollie, thank you so much.
Greatly appreciate. Shout out to Betsy there, right here on WMAL.
This song's for you.